Hello from my side. I would like to introduce first myself and why I'm here as well. So my name is Spyros Fountas. I'm from Agricultural University of Athens. I'm going to present three knowledge reservoirs that I have been involved in previous project, but at the same time, I'm also a member of this EU-FarmBook family, I was calling. So together with my colleague Hercules, Panagiotis and Andreas, we're like a group that we're leading one of the Work Package 2, developing also the upload form that Effie was asking to see, and everybody is thinking how we're going to connect. And I'm saying that because my background is agriculture. I'm an agronomist from Greece, but then I moved to information systems. I did master's and PhD in Denmark and in the UK, and I moved to digitization. So for me, I understand both worlds. So I understand why, for example, an agronomist like a professor or researcher like I think she doesn't understand metadata and ontologies. She's going to say really clear things. I have a project, I want to upload it, how to do it. So for me, I can understand both worlds, and that's why I think I have been involved in this area with platforms, and that's why I'm going to present to you today some of the three platforms we have developed. Our groups have been developed, some already ongoing, and why it's important. First of all, this one of the first project that I was the coordinator of this one. SmartIKis already seems like a history. It finished in 2019. That's why it brought me into Euracnos and Eureka, because Peter Spanog was coordinator of Euracnos. He sent an email to all coordinators of thematic networks at that time, and he said, if somebody wants to be involved in this new project, Euracnos, they have to respond by Friday, I remember. He gave us 5 days, and we're just 10 people that managed to respond, and we got into this Euracnos, Eureka, EU-FarmBook family. So that's why I'm here, because of this project, and because of Peter had this initiative. I'm very happy to collaborate with this. So here, for example, you see the website. Oops, sorry. We have the website, and then you see the platform. That means a knowledge reservoir. So it's a project that they have all, that's website project, but then we go inside the platform here, how it looks like, the knowledge reservoir. Here we had managed to have 1,500 technologies for smart farming stored into this one. You see how it looks like. And then if you click in some of these, you see some of the specific technologies. Here, for example, you see one which is TRL5. That means that's from a research project, which is a prototype. And we have very simple explanation. So this platform became quite popular, not only Europe, but also from other countries, because it was very simple interface. That's why people want to see. And here, for example, that's another technology, like 2 of the 1,500, that it's TRL high, 9, that means that's commercial. You can see, for example, also apart from information, also why is it good for, the sustainability, the economics, the environment, and so on. And at the lower part, we always had an evaluation form. So if somebody was clicking to get information of this specific technology to evaluate, the one in the bottom didn't work. People usually like to see things in the platforms. We all go into Google search. We want to search, but we don't want to vote or ask questions usually. So the lower part didn't work so much. So this is one of many, many platforms of one of the thematic networks for smart farming. And it was really pity that the project finished in 19, and we managed to get something to continue, but of course we didn't manage to find any funds. And it's the same for many other exciting project platforms, like Innoseta, it's $1 million here, it was very good for, excellent for sprayer, or Panacea for industrial crops, and you see, that's why EU-FarmBook is here. So some of these will have some continuation, and they will not die out after a few years after the project. So that's the message I have, and really, here is a very high-level group here. It's small, but very important. Project coordinator, project managers, CAP network representatives. We all know, how much effort you put in a project, how much information, and we all feel very bad and sorry if we don't find a way continue this information there. So the second project now I'm going to give you, so there are three platforms. This one is Fair Share. It's, I think, also well known in the community. It's a coordinator by Tsegas from Ireland. Our group, again, with my colleagues, Hercules Mayots, myself, and Sofia, we have developed, again, the knowledge reservoir, or we call it Dutch inventory here. They have different names. Knowledge reservoirs, platform, inventories, they're just different names. And here you see, again, the front page of the website, and then we click on the inventory, and you see here, and I'm going to say again, that to build such inventory, it takes a lot of time. For example, for this specific one, we spent 6 months. Every 2 weeks, I was involved in this one, discussing with representatives of advisory networks, partners like Peter Paris was there. He just nodding. He remembered that. It was a long process because we wanted to have a platform that the audience would actually appreciate. So there is not a single platform for all projects. Farmers want to see different, advisors at different things, researchers at different, or consumers something different. So we spent 6 months to finalize, we had many mock-ups, and we finalized this process. Here is how it looks like. So it's already 300 digital solutions uploaded for advisors. So our group is responsible to upload the maintenance. We're just, this project is finishing this year, so we're very happy EU-FarmBook is here. So it will not be dying out after a few years. And here you see just a print screen of some of the technologies. And here is, for example, one example of the 300. It's one from, I think it's from Ilvo, I guess, or Vito, sorry. It's for, and it's, again, we try to make it visible. It's very important to have some examples like videos and some documents, the ones where it's interesting to go to get further information. And then very simple questions like who is it for, how it works, and why to use it. And again, it's, we made it in 11 countries, so you can go and check in 11 countries. And finally, there is also an assessment tool. So Consular Rui has help from the assessment tool for that. But again, it doesn't work, this assessment tool. It's a very good idea, but the ones who are visiting don't want to make assessment. But it's still there within 11 languages, but still not well used, but it's still there. Okay, that's the second one our group has developed, and we still keep going, actually. It's the last year, and we're still developing some new things. It's a very dynamic, this project, very successful. People are very dynamic. They ask more questions to do something more in every meeting. And the last project I'm going to present, the last inventory, is called Sherpa. That's coordinated by a company, Ecoris. I think somebody from Ecoris should be here, so in the list. It's a Brussels company. It's about rural projects. So this is an interesting project because the Commission asked, they say, there are so many projects in rural policy over the last 20 years, and nobody can find this information. So the head, it's like a EU-FarmBook for rural policy. So they asked to gather all information together for rural policy. So because we had this experience from Smart Icons, they invited our group to make again the knowledge repository for this one, Sherpa repository, we call it here. And it's very interesting, this one, that's more complex because it has thematic areas. It's very much like a refinery before, and every year we just put 2 more thematic areas. For example, here is like long-term vision, biodiversity, climate change, are very, very interesting aspects. If I click, I'm going to click one of these, for example, in biodiversity, we actually see 98 projects. So we have actually got all the projects for the last 20 years. Here is not only Horizon, Europe Horizon 2020, but we have FP7 and FP6, the ones who are a little bit older in age, and they have also been involved in FP6 and FP7. And you can actually find a search document for this one, and I'm going to tell you that because it was very hard to find information for projects that already have finished in FP6 and FP7, but Cordis still have information there. So we made a crawler we call it crawler. I mean, like, we use AI, artificial intelligence, and for searching, you see, for searching into Cordis, Life, and EIP Agri, the databases, we actually put specific keywords. We have the crawler to run. You can see we leave it run for 24 hours. And then we actually extracted information and put it into the repository. It was very interesting because the first months, Cordis was always blocking our search. They thought it was an attacker, it was a hacker going to Cordis. So we had to send many emails, that were trusted IP address, give us access. It took us many months to give access to be able to search for 24 hours our Cordis database. But we managed to get it, and that's why we have a very rich database for this one. And here is an example, for example, one of the projects. It was just random selection, for example, Pegasus that finished in 2018, but still information is here. Maybe if the coordinator didn't know, all the projects related are in this database. And here is why we really like it, because for each specific project, we have, and I think that could be also relevant to EU-FarmBook. We have actually classified them. You see the legend on the right, according to the open search data pilot, video link, journal paper, websites, project web sites, social media, poster, and so on. And you see, for example, all the relevant material listed in this project. So you all go and search on for this to see what you may get as an outcome. So my final thoughts for linking between EU-FarmBook and now the project is that digital reservoirs contain very useful information. We know that, of course, websites in general, not all projects should have a platform or a digital repository. They may have, like you said, best practices, videos, so on. But again, if we even spend more time to have such a platform, it's pity actually to be wasted after the end of the project. So the digital reservoirs are easier to navigate than standard project websites, because it's easier to go and click specific categories. So it's more easier for the end users. And the digital reservoirs are not suitable for all projects. To me, CSA, coordination support actions, or innovation actions, are more like suitable for such reservoirs, not for research projects, RIA projects, because you really do for fundamental work. And EU-FarmBook could be the place, hopefully, to host. As you can see, still it's the beginning, like 6 months, so we cannot really answer all the questions, but it's ongoing when the project ends. Thank you very much.
Okay. So, thank you to the EU-FarmBook Consortium to inviting me here as a representative of the forestry sector from the European Forest Institute. My name is Eduard Mauri. I'm based in the office in Barcelona. And I'm going to tell you my experience on knowledge reservoirs in forestry from the perspective of a project coordinator. So when I've seen that there are many of you in the room that are managing, coordinating 2-3 million euros project that last 2, 3, 4 years, and then you develop a repository or you generate practical knowledge. So where do you put this practical knowledge and how do you manage it, especially when the project is over? So I've lived this as a project coordinator or being involved in developing knowledge reservoirs for this kind of projects, and this is the testimonial that I'm going to tell you now. So there are two communities that need to be connected, and that's a story I'm going to tell you about. On the left, the community of the practical community, the community that do not know about XML or JSON or whatever. They know about what you see is what you get. Eh? Maybe like Microsoft Word. Eh? You type, and if you put Arial and you print, you get Arial, and you don't bother about coding. So these two communities have to be connected, and I'm talking from the perspective of this practical community that would try to connect with the IT guys. So what I've seen as knowledge reservoirs for this 2-3 year project that produced practical knowledge, I think that could be classified into axes. One is where the practical knowledge is hosted. It may be own-hosted or in existing reservoirs. And then which is the format of these knowledge objects? It could be downloadable PDFs, or it could be a database that generates an HTML on the fly when you request this information. I will give you some examples, maybe some of you know them. Sincere Project, they have a website, their practical knowledge is in PDF, and they host in their own website. So it's a list of PDFs in the website of the project. So I think that this would get from Christopher ranking of 1 to 5 stars. 1 star, right, Christopher? On the other hand, we have, for example, Affinet. Affinet, they have also knowledge objects. They are also in PDF, but they are not stored in their own website. If you go to Affinet website, what you will retrieve from as a PDF is stored in another existing reservoir that it's accessed through an API, and this reservoir is Zenodo. So the PDF, it's in Zenodo, but you are accessing it through the project website. But still, the knowledge object is a PDF. And we'll see what are the advantages and the inconvenience of this. Another kind of example from a Rosewood 4.0 project on good mobilization, the knowledge platform for regional forest innovation. This is an own-hosted platform, but the practical knowledge, the knowledge objects, do not exist as a PDF, do not exist as an Excel file. They are in a database. I don't know if the coding of the database, I don't know because I've not developed it. But it's a data that it's not human readable. It's in a database, it's machine readable, and then when you request, okay, I want to see this fact sheet, the database is accessed and it generates on the fly, so at the same time, an HTML file that you as human can read and understand on the screen. And finally, the same strategy, but instead of being unhosted, it's hosted in an existing platform or an existing reservoir. That's a knowledge repository for non-good forest products developed in a thematic network called Incredible. These other projects also were thematic networks. And here, instead of having our own existing hosting, it's hosted in an existing platform, in that case, Opla. But again, the knowledge object doesn't exist in a readable format. It's generated an HTML file when you consult it. And you may find other hybrid platforms like Prismatic from Catalonia that groups research and universities on biodiversity and natural heritage, where, for example, the scientific articles that are published there to generate the fact sheets. The scientific papers are, of course, hosted in existing reservoirs that are the scientific journals, but they are hosted as PDF. But then the platform offers a summary as a fact sheet that it's an HTML that is generated on the fly in their own hosting. So there are also these hybrid versions of the platform. What are the advantages and the inconvenience? If you have a downloadable PDF, the inconvenience is that the content is not machine readable. So you have a PDF that it's very useful for you to read on the screen or even print, but machine readable not. And if you host these PDFs in your own website, it will be very difficult to attach metadata to it, or not straightforward. It will be very difficult to comply with the FAIR principles. While if you, your knowledge objects are in a database, it's easier to have metadata to comply with FAIR. Of course, this does not guarantee that you will have this because you are on hosting, so you could develop a platform and do not care about metadata, but you can easily integrate it. While if you are using existing reservoirs, or if your knowledge objects are in a database, then this makes them fully machine readable, and you can even embed the editorial process in the platform. I will talk about this later, about these editorial processes. And of course, if your material is in an existing reservoir, and this reservoir is of high quality, this reservoir like Zenodo, for example, it should ask you, give me your metadata, otherwise you cannot publish. And it helps you to guarantee that your material there has open access, respects the FAIR principles, and even may force you to use ontologies and existing vocabularies. So as I said, yes, Zenodo in this case, or for example, Opla in this case, but there are many other platforms more or less transversal or topic specific. So why do we have such a variety of platforms? And I think that I did a kind of persona exercise by myself. As project coordinator, we have the exclusive. So the exclusive is that they cannot achieve their own visual identity if they put their knowledge objects in other platforms. So let's have my own knowledge reservoir so I can have my visual branding and so on. Or the navel gazer is that, oh, my topic is so specific that there is no other platform that can host the topic of mine. So I create my own knowledge reservoir. Usually these two are quite linked together. Then there is the big player. The big player says, okay, my project will produce more than 200 fact sheets, meaning that I can have my own platform because I will have a platform of 200 fact sheets, so big enough to stand alone. So then they generate their own knowledge reservoir. And then the cookie cutter, that's very linked also to the previous, is that because they have 200, 300 fact sheets that they have to produce in the project, they need an automated way to generate these fact sheets. And usually the platforms do not provide this tool, so they create their own platform to have their cookie cutter to produce the layout automatically for the 200 fact sheets using the same template. And finally, the straightforward, that is, my audience doesn't care, my audience don't care about the FAIR principles, the open access, because they are farmers, they are foresters, they only want to have access to the fact sheets and be able to read it, so don't care about these principles because the audience would not request for it. And of course, as we have seen, this impairs the further reusing of the project results. So some best practices and obstacles. So usually one of the obstacles, well, this is the column of obstacles, it doesn't appear, I don't know why, is that data gets all attention. The solution is that you have to plan ahead what your metadata will be, also the IPR licenses that you will use. Usually one of the obstacles is that these are small projects, 2-3 year long, they lack of a specialized technical staff on open access, on FAIR principles, or maybe they are in the university, but you have not planned them to involve in the project and you don't have the budget to hire them afterwards. So again, plan ahead or outsource. And outsource meaning use other platforms that already provide you that if you put material there, your material will be open access and respect the FAIR principles. Then the one who are searching for the exclusivity or the navel-gazing people or project managers, project coordinators, I would say to them, sacrifice some of this exclusivity to be part of a broader project. And for those that think themselves that they are independent, oh, I have 200 fact sheets, so I may have my own knowledge repository, I would say to them, embrace a community, because even you can sacrifice some of this exclusivity and go into a place that could be Zenodo, that could be the EU-FarmBook or similar, that already has a community engaged, and you have direct access to them if you upload your knowledge objects there instead of creating your own platform. And also there are other headaches like the long-term maintenance, what happens when the project ends, the multilingual headache, as we have seen. So I would tell for them, scout these existing high-quality reservoirs that will provide a solution for this long-term problem. And I think that the main obstacle here is that the practical knowledge is missing its own Zenodo. So if a platform like EU-FarmBook could be the Zenodo for the practical knowledge, I'm not talking here about scientific papers, that would be great. And because we all know that the publication of scientific papers is a well-laid path. Most of us, we know how to publish a scientific paper, and the path is very detailed. But for the practical knowledge, there is no size fits all. So how do we, that Inge asked me, how do we guarantee the quality of these knowledge objects? First of all, I think that it should not be the EU-FarmBook who should guarantee the quality of a knowledge object. It should be the project itself. And for this, we have to implement in the projects, when generating the practical knowledge, editorial loops. And that's what I did in previous knowledge reservoirs, is that the authors of the practical knowledge, they cannot publish the knowledge. You have the knowledge, when the practical knowledge is ready to be published, is sent to an editor that is within the project, and the editor has the power to publish the knowledge object if he's okay or she's okay with the content, or is sent back to the author to review it and implement the requested changes. And that's why if your knowledge objects are not a PDF but are in a database, it's very easy to implement this loop. However, what finally happens is the following, is that the editors are whipping the authors, the work package or task leaders are whipping the editors to do their job, the project coordinator is whipping the work package leaders to whip the editors, to whip the authors, and finally the project advisor at the RIA is whipping the project coordinator to make sure that the knowledge objects are published. So we try to make it a loop, but finally it's a kind of workflow from RIA to the authors. And finally, what about interoperability and the future collaboration? That's what my projects had to pay to develop these two knowledge reservoirs, 10,000 euros, 15,000 euros. So it's money that could be saved if we would have used an existing platform. So what I would like is that this content would be now ingested into the EU-FarmBook, because this would solve for the long-term maintenance, and I think it's very valuable information there that only the specific community around these projects know, or those that by chance they get to know them. If you are in a bigger platform, you get a bigger audience. But then the question is, who will pay for the possible lack of current interoperability? And it would not be the project who would pay if there is any effort to make the existing data operability, because these projects have no more money. However, for new projects, so these are two of the three scenarios that Hercules presented, so for finished projects, but for new projects, how do I see the EU-FarmBook? EU-FarmBook would be the house for the existing projects, and EU-FarmBook would take care of all of this. Would take care of the metadata structure, the open access, the FAIR principles, the GDPR compliance, the IPR licenses, the ontologies, the vocabularies, the automatic translation, the social network part, the curation, the hosting, the maintenance. And you, as project coordinators, you should not care about these technicalities because you are not supposed to do this. You are supposed to generate high-quality practical knowledge and let the EU-FarmBook IT guys to solve these questions for you or to manage these questions for you. Of course, you still will have to provide the metadata, but you will not have to get to assess which metadata structure do you use. You will have to provide the vocabularies, but you will not have to go into the web and search, okay, which vocabularies do exist for my field of research? And a wish list. So I would like that EU-FarmBook would provide these projects some visual identity. And as we have seen, this is one of the requests that usually is done by the project coordinators. EU-FarmBook would like, I would like that it manages collections. I'm pretty sure that most of your projects publish practical knowledge that is structured in collections. So how EU-FarmBook could provide that you could access an individual piece of this collection, but maybe then you are interested in the whole collection, and this whole collection usually comes along with a visual identity. I've presented that some of these knowledge reservoirs, they don't have the practical knowledge as a PDF or a video or an audio as a file. They have a database that usually is filled in through an online form. So you are an author, you fill an online form with all the data and metadata, and then the system generates a record in the database, and when the user requests to see this record, the HTML is generated on the fly. So it would be nice that EU-FarmBook could provide this kind of way to generate practical knowledge, because, as I said, it's very easy then to embed the editorial process into this way to generate practical knowledge, because you don't have to attach a Word file or a PDF file into an email and send to the editor, and the editor corrects and sends the PDF or the file back. You send a request to modify the entries, the values in the database before it is published and accessible to all. And that would be nice also that the EU-FarmBook would also manage external contributors, meaning that it's not only people, not only consortium members of the project who are invited to generate knowledge objects, but sometimes in some projects, even external contributors are welcome. So there should be a way also to manage these external contributors. And finally, how I see at the long term is that when a project finishes, this project, let's say, subside within EU-FarmBook may vanish, may disappear, and may create a topic-based community. So I've seen, for example, there are many projects on fertilization. So after 2-3 years of your project, do you still want to have your visual identity and your sub-site in the EU-FarmBook, or maybe you want to unite under the plant nutrition community and then have all the plant nutrition community knowledge objects there and abandon your visual identity? So this is something that why not the EU-FarmBook could provide. So as I said, this is connecting both worlds, and I hope that the EU-FarmBook team will do this, because what you see is what you get. People don't have to care about XML and JSON files, so replacing this missing connection by building a bridge that would make especially this side the life easier. And I say this side the life easier because, to my understanding, the technical part of the EU-FarmBook has to provide support to those that do not have the technical skills or the technical capacity to develop such a an IT tool that would be respect the FAIR principles, be open access, have metadata, vocabularies, ontologies. Don't care about this. These guys need to care, but for this, we need a bridge. Thank you very much.
So, thank you. Ooh, okay, yep. Is this? Yep. So we're a bit over time, and I hear some stomachs grumbling. So we're going to move very fast. I don't have the rapping skills that Edward has, as we've seen, and I'm still very impressed by that. But maybe a bit on the guidelines for the parallel sessions in the afternoon. Now we've heard about the why, we've heard about the what. How are we going to do something? So we have 4 parallel sessions. The first one is specifically the EU-FarmBook and thematic networks. Second one is the EU-FarmBook and the national regional knowledge reservoirs, hubs for practice, this word of these reservoirs, hubs. Then we have the digital community. As you've seen in several of these keynotes, we saw actually the word community popping up, so it's quite important. And then we have the conceptual design, a bit more focused on the ontology. Now, why do we have those 4 sessions? Because they represent 4 different situations. First situation is on thematic networks. They tend to be multi-actor projects. They're limited in time. So it means like you have limited budget, limited time. At some point, if you create something, it will disappear. They have a very specific thematic focus, which means that if you compare it to the next thing that I'm going to show, it's completely different. And they're cross-national, so they're not specifically linked to a member state. If you go to these national or regional knowledge reservoirs, they're completely different. They represent a different situation. So they are actually an existing situation where there is knowledge that has been accumulated. What the hell do you do with it? So they're long-term. It's not like all of a sudden a member state is going to stop happening. Well, Belgium, hey, oh, sorry. And then you have like also the very multi-thematic focus. I mean, it's not all of a sudden like you're only focused on crop farming. No, you're also doing livestock. You have to create something that encompasses all of that. So it's a completely different situation. And you're at a very national, regional level. It means you have borders and you have to basically deal with that. Now, in terms of that digital community, what is important is actually we've heard from a lot of end users already, we don't simply want to have like a book that you take out of the library, you read it, you don't understand it, you put it back, and you think, what did I do? What did just happen? No, we basically want to read a book. If we don't understand it, we want to be able to ask some questions. We want to interact with other people who have some knowledge on a specific topic. So we want to also create constructive online interactions. I think anybody has been on the forum of a news website. They kind of know maybe the fear that sometimes we have. We want to also assist this knowledge exchange. It's not always easy to make sure that one person communicates something and the other person understands it. That requires a bit of expertise as well. And we also want to make sure that we understand the dynamics of communities. Communities are not static. They change, they evolve. So we want to make sure that we can keep on tracking all of that. And then finally, we have the 4th session, which is on ontologies. And maybe some of you might say ontology. That's a word that's so sexy, I don't know what to do anymore with myself. But it's actually very important because through ontology, users or visitors know where to find the knowledge that they're actually looking for. If you do not have a clear ontology, if you do not speak a language that everybody understands, it's simply difficult to find things. I mean, look at Google. Like sometimes you type in the wrong thing and you don't know what you're getting. Now, creating an ontology, not the easiest thing in the world. So that's one thing. But also, we know that the world changes. Agriculture changes, how do you keep it flexible? How do you adapt it? Mystery. So that's basically what we're going to be talking about during these afternoon sessions. You've all been allocated to a specific session. Normally it's almost everybody on your favorite session, so don't kill me, please. So that's basically about the afternoon sessions. And after these sessions, we're going to come back into the plenary, and we're going to see what happened in these sessions, and we still have some time for questions. Now, lunch. And there's a specific word on lunch. We kind of wanted to see what lunch and interoperability, the key word of today, how you could basically achieve that. So we have the caterer, Frank, who is basically really very much involved with agriculture. So everything is locally produced. They pay a lot of attention to farmers who are sustainable. And so there was a bit of a challenge. And the challenge is not very unlike the challenge that we as the EU-FarmBook team have to deal with. So we have to consider food allergies. So fair data principles has to be quite accessible. We have to consider food preferences. So that's a bit more ontology. I mean, yeah, what does it mean to be a vegetarian? What does it mean to be a vegan? What does it mean to be an omnivore, carnivore, flexitarian? That's also something now. So we have to deal with that. We have to consider taste because it has to be good. So we have to choose the right restaurant. And that means user-friendliness. If nobody likes it, nobody's going to eat it. So I hope you all get fed today. And then we have to consider also agriculture and forestry, because those are the needs, actually, of our visitors. We have to consider the sustainability for the long term. We have to consider food waste, because apparently every time that one organizes a conference or something, and we try to cater to everybody, apparently a lot of food gets wasted. It gets left, and yeah, what happens with that? That's not really the most ethical thing. And we also had to consider price, because it has to be feasible. So, I mean, we can give everybody exactly what they want. That's not going to be payable, and we're probably still going to have some food waste. So with that, I hope you will enjoy lunch. Which is upstairs in the marble room.